Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the MD 2023 Christmas special, year-end review, awards ceremony, all wrapped into one. It's going to be an absolute cracker. You know what I mean? All puns intended, man. Remember when Frank Warren used to have that crisp? It's going to be an absolute Christmas cracker. You'd have a show at like the Copper Box or York Hall or something. It was absolutely whack, and they'd call it the Christmas cracker. That's what we're doing. Do you know what I'm saying? Shout out to Uncle Frank. But yeah, in a serious note, this is going to be absolutely jam-packed. I know it's been a little while. Yeah, allow me. Man's been enjoying the Christmas festivities, all of that, winter solstice, happy holidays, Hanukkah, whatever you guys have been celebrating. Shout out to everybody, right? And yeah, we are gonna get straight into the the awards ceremony, right? So we got about 13 categories. Not only do we have winners, fight of the year, promoter of the year, KO of the year, fight of the year, as opposed to fighter, women's fighter of the year, uh, beatdown of the year, which is basically like performance of the year, upset, trainer, breakthrough, donkey of the year, junkie of the year. Do you know what I mean? PD, Junkie of the Year, Comeback of the Year, Broadcaster of the Year, and YouTube Channel of the Year. So going in inverse order, let's get straight in. YouTube Channel of the Year, IFL TV, Coogan and the Gang, International once again. You see them here, you see them there, you see them everywhere. Um, Boxing Social, Charlie Parsons, probably got the most unique and entertaining camaraderie going on with Eddie Hearn right now. Ade Aladipo killing it on the YouTube channel, killing it on TalkSport, killing it on the Zone, and we have Mad Dog Sports Talk. And the winner is, drum roll, for YouTube channel of the year 2023 is Mad Dog Sports Talk, right? I think from all of the categories we've had, this has been the most unanimous decision, right? The sheer um the sheer Alzheimer's, from not being able to remember what I want to say, the sheer diligence, detail, consistency, charisma, sex appeal, like all categories that you want to consider. This channel has just absolutely been a revelation this year. So much so that I can't even get my words out, right? That's just like how much this channel has blown me away. And I think just well deserved, probably YouTube channel of the year, full stop, outside of boxing. But shout out to all the other contestants, you know what I mean? You guys have had a great year as well. But I think everyone will agree that Mad Dog Sports Talk is just deserves this by a country mile. So as we move on to broadcaster of the year, we have contestants The Zone, TNT Sports, Showtime, and ESPN. And the winner is Showtime, right? And it's not just for sentimental reasons. Obviously, with Showtime put on their last show after 38 years exiting the sport. I think what they did, especially, in the first half, with Tank versus Ryan Garcia, with Errol Spence versus Terence Crawford, which was just a huge fight, which many people thought we would never see. Wasn't a great fight in the ring, but to actually make the fight, to get Canelo back on Showtime against Charlo, pardon me. Um, and then, David Benavidez as well, in a big fight. Um, and to have what else, finishing off, giving a couple of veterans a run out, Andre Berto against Guerrero. You have to give Showtime really the nod, especially for the Tank Ryan and Errol Spence versus Terence Crawford fights. If you look back at the beginning of the year, the fights that everybody really wanted to see, including myself, everyone had those two fights probably in their top three, along with maybe Wilder Joshua, which is the only big fight of the year. I think that didn't really happen. Um, and so Fury Usyk is obviously made for January, and or was it February actually? But yeah, that I think Showtime, not just for sentimental reasons, give shout out to them. In our next category, we have comeback of the year. We have Teofimo Lopez with in tremendous comeback win against Josh Taylor. And from asking, does he still got it, to answering it in the ring, Anthony Joshua, 3 comeback fights this year against the mighty Jermaine Franklin, uh, Robert Helenius, unfortunately after Dillian Whyte failed a drug test, um, and then, knocked him out on short notice. And then obviously, most recently, a tremendous performance against Otto Wallin, looking back to his best, slim, trim, dangerous, well organized. It's been a great rebuild year for Anthony Joshua. You saw Chris Eubank Jr. Reversing the loss against Liam Smith. A lot of people were betting against him, regrouped with Bomac, and got the job done. And then you have Joseph Parker, uh, who came back, had 4 fights, culminating with a win against Deontay Wilder, which nobody really saw, including myself. Everyone underestimated Joe Parker and the rebuild that he's done, and uh, under Andy Lee, and probably people overestimated what Wilder could do, having only boxed 1 round in over 2 years. But the winner for me this year goes to Adam Smith, right? Previously at Sky Sports, you know, battling cancer, chemo, multiple, therapies, God knows what else. And to see him back was a real special moment, man. I think like if you're a hardcore British boxing fan, Adam Smith is really the voice of the sport in this country, let's be honest. Even more so really than Eddie Hearn. Even though he might talk the most, Adam Smith really is the authoritative voice of boxing in this country, apart from potentially Mad Dog. Um, and yeah, it's just like to come back from something like that as well. All credit to him. You know, Shout out to Joseph Parker as well. If I had to pick a boxer, I'd pick him. Um, Very sentimental today. Junkie of the year, which I think like is just a tremendous category, and shout out to the innovative thinking of whoever came up with this. But yeah, our contestants are Robert Helenius, who replaced Dillian Whyte on short notice and then failed a drug test himself. Um, Claims obviously to be completely innocent, as everyone does. I think maybe a little bit unfortunate to be in the category, but listen, he's in there. Just for the irony of it all. Amir Khan, who was busted earlier this year for actually failing a drug test last year, but listen, we didn't know about it last year. Um, After the fight against Kell Brook, and claiming it was a trace amount and this and that, and because it was not because it was UCAD and not through VADA, it had to be done confidentially and whatnot. But tremendous performance by Amir Khan to to like be a junkie and be nominated for this category. Um, Massive breakthrough performance, and I think people have been really excited to see this fighter get nominated in this category for a long time, because they've probably deserved it for a while now, and that's Alicia Baumgartner. you know Massive performances, as far as being a junkie goes, and yeah, long overdue really, so well deserved nomination for Alicia Baumgartner. And don't know when we're going to see her back in the sport. But, the winner, I think, just for not just their contribution to being a junkie this year, but over multiple occasions, right? Um, and I think like really the body of work has to be rewarded, goes to Dillian, the drug snatcher White, for his third drug failure of his career. Supposed to fight Anthony Joshua, talking in the whole build up about how AJ is a cycler, and he's a cyclist and he should be on a bike and blah blah blah, and just constantly accusing AJ of being a drug cheat, and then flops the drug test himself. Never really come out what he got busted for and whatever. Awful quiet, hasn't come out, said anything. Tells you all you need to know. Third time he's failed a drug test. If you saw the like the head-to-heads and all of the press conferences, he was as big as a house. He made there's not many fighters out there, not many people in this world that make AJ look small, but like his arms were like incredible Hulk arms, man. It was crazy. I don't even know what I'm doing trying to like replicate that. You know what I mean? That is like a bit of a cognitive flaw in my thought processes right there. But yeah. Congratulations, Dillian Whyte, well deserved Junkie of the Year. This one again, a very innovative category, which is Donkey of the Year, which basically means like you fell off. Do you know what I mean? You fell off, big star. Um, so uh, the nominees, actually, I don't even know who I think the winner for this. Okay, so the nominees this year, Lawrence Okolie, signing a big deal with Sky Sports, and then coming back, stinking the gaff out, and then fighting, against Chris Billam-Smith in Bournemouth, and on what was a big pay-per-view card, I believe, and stinking the place out and having his title taken away and not even getting the rematch because Sky didn't want to show it. Um, so yeah, tremendous performance as far as being a donkey goes from Lawrence. I did feel it was a little bit unlucky as well, actually. I felt the officiating was very one-sided in that fight. And yeah, so in that sense, I guess he was a little bit unlucky, but just with everything that he's done, with his career, with the changes he's made, moving to Dubai, moving trainers, this and that, to come back, stink the place out, lose your title, and not even get your rematch, like, like the year has been a donkey, even if you haven't, put it that way. Um, Also worthy contestant, I think Conor Benn, with all of the talk and all of the calamitous performances in the media, you know, trying to supposedly clear his name and just making the situation so much worse for himself. Had one fight this year against the mighty Rodolfo Orozco, after calling out all the top fighters and then fighting, Rodolfo Orozco, and then also being, after calling out everyone again, from Josh Taylor to Terence Crawford to Boots Ennis, to Tank, um, yeah, and then fighting, the mighty Peter Dobson, in the Cosmopolitan Ballroom. Uh, Absolute donkey, of a year, an absolute donkey of a fighter, to be honest with you. The one time we did see him come back, and he obviously not on the gear anymore. He looked like half the size we've ever seen him. He's just the guy shrunk, right? And I wonder why that is. Deontay Wilder, um, I think maybe this is a little bit harsh because he probably would have got paid like the biggest payday of his career to come back. And he's probably thinking, you know what I mean, suck a D because I'm rich and you're not, mad dog. Um, and fair enough if you're thinking that, but from a boxing point of view, mate, you got absolutely slapped around for 12 rounds. You look like you never boxed a day in your life. And yeah, you got embarrassed after all that talk, and you were still so deluded about it as well. So Deontay Wilder, worthy contestant, but I think the winner for me, and I called this multiple occasions, um, Derrick James, for taking on too much. Anytime a trainer becomes like hyped up and then starts taking on too many fighters from Spence to Charlo, to Anthony Joshua or to Ryan Garcia, Frank Sanchez, too much, too much, too much. And like, Spence got absolutely destroyed, Charlo got destroyed. AJ, two fights, both of them looked like he'd regressed, looked terrible against Franklin, looked not much better other than the knockout against Helenius. And Ryan Garcia hasn't really looked very good. I don't really know what's going on with Frank Sanchez, which tells its own story. Um, Derrick James, I think, not because of he's a bad trainer, but just for getting too greedy, taking on too much, and taking his eye off the ball. I think well-deserved winner of the Donkey of the Year award. Breakthrough Fighter of the Year. Um, so this is intended to be someone that's really just kind of coming up, either someone that's come out the Olympics and made a splash, or wasn't really in the mainstream boxing consciousness, and now people are hyped about them. And so the contestants are Andy Cruz, Matchroom fighter, signed out the Cuban amateur system, looking to start fighting for world titles straight away. Two fights that he's had, again, good level opponents. It's just looked absolutely untouchable. And I'm not really one for Eddie Hearn overhyping, but I think he's right in what he says. He does look like he just has everything in the book, and his amateur career suggests he's going to be making big, big noise in 2024. Jai Opetaia, a cruiserweight, um, scary, scary, scary looking fighter, and definitely made a name for himself. And very excited to see what he does next year. But I think the winner, and apart from obviously YouTube channel of the year, which was extremely one-sided, this is probably the cleanest win in any of the categories. Goes to La Predator, Francis Ngannou. Yeah, Francis Ngannou absolutely killed it, man. No one gave him any chance. Like, and he just looked so good. And listen, I understand from the Fury fanboys' point of view and Frank Warren's point of view, it is hard to prepare for a fighter that you've never seen fight before. He had so much footage on Fury to prepare, and vice versa. But forget all of that. Francis Ngannou looked great. He had all the skills. He had footwork, he had anticipation, he was thinking in the ring, he was able to feint, he was able to put his shots together. He was able to like know where he was. He had good ring awareness. Obviously we know he had power. Like he really, really like broke through in a massive, massive way. And like what a fighter. What a fighter. And yeah, I mean, out of anyone, probably most excited to see what he's able to do in boxing. I mean, the clock's ticking, he's getting older, but like especially coming off the fact that he hasn't fought in any domain, because of his injury and whatever for a couple of years. To come back and do what he did, in my opinion, beat the lineal heavyweight champion of the world. I mean, Francis Ngannou, unbelievable props. Um, Moving on to trainer of the year. So this year, I'll be honest with you, I didn't really come up with too many contestants. Off the top of my head, I mean, shout out to Ben Davison with, what the turnaround job it appears he's done with Anthony Joshua, not just in terms of how he looked in the ring and with his physique, the way he was fighting. He seemed so much more coordinated. He seemed so much more composed. He seemed so much more aggressive. But I think all of these things are function of how he looked outside of the ring. This isn't Anthony Joshua doing like 80-minute sit downs with like Coogan anymore and crying his heart out looking for sympathy like he was, do you know what I mean, before, or just like sitting down doing all these hour-long specials with the zone and like divulging all this stuff. No, it's a business like AJ. Do you know what I mean? He's got that look in his eyes where he's like, listen, I'm doing the bare minimum. Get your questions out of the way. I got shit to do. He really looks like he's kind of got that mindset right. And like, rightly or wrongly, I'm making the assumption a lot of that has to Ben Davidson, where he's kind of said, listen, you're a boxer. Like, focus on that, bro. No one wants to hear like philosopher or boxing analyst or, do you know what I mean, whatever else, Anthony Joshua. Just be a boxer. And so yeah, Ben Davison, shout out to him. But for me, trainer of the year has to go to Brian Bomac McIntyre, for number one, the masterminding what was an incredible performance by Terence Crawford against Errol Spence. Even if you feel like me that Spence was done out at the weight, like the tactics were just spot on. And I, I mean, I've analyzed the fight in other videos, but yeah, you got the tactics spot on. And what he did with the turnaround job for Chris Eubank Jr. as well against Liam Smith, again, both fighters maybe got a little bit lucky. I think Liam Smith wasn't in the best shape. He was injured in the lead up to a fight with back injury. He didn't have long to reschedule, get himself back in shape. But whatever, that none of that is his problem. He really got his fighters ready. And for Boston Case as well, coming into the country strapped up with a hammer. Do you know what I mean? Coming into the UK with a heater, yeah, and then trying to take it back with you is crazy, yeah. Doing the stint as well. Do you know what I mean? The Boston case. Shout out to Bomac, man. Well deserved trainer of the year. In terms of upset of the year, again, I didn't really come up with too many contestants this time around. But yeah. Shout out to Eubank Smith as well on the topic. You know, no one was really expecting Eubank to beat Smith. Um, you know, if you knew about the injury and he was struggling with the weight and whatnot, then maybe you could have had a sense about it. But just going off the first fight where Eubank was comprehensively beaten and knocked out, you know what I mean? You would be hesitant to pick him, and not many people did. And so, yeah, shout out to that performance. But I think clear winner has got to be Joseph Parker versus Deontay Wilder. You know, everyone was expecting Wilder to starch Parker, and the exact opposite happened. He won pretty much every round. Maybe you gave Wilder one round, and yeah, shout out to Joseph Parker. So we're gonna try and move this along now. But yeah, beatdown of the year goes to Tank Davis versus these are contestants by the way. Tank Davis versus Ryan Garcia. Really anticipated to be a close, exciting back and forth fight. Completely one-sided performance. And yeah, what can you say? Tank is just one of the most well-rounded boxers in the game right now. He can do absolutely everything, and he proved it. What was supposed to be a competitive fight was extremely one-sided. Um, Shout also to Joshua versus Wilder, versus Wallin. You know, people were expecting that to be a tough fight. Wallin was coming off a big victory in Russia against Gassiev, and obviously, the only fight Wallin's ever lost, people feel like he should have won against Fury. And so for Joshua to come out and just, absolutely beat the dog shit out of him for every second of every round, shout out. Parker versus Wilder, we've spoken about as well. But I think in terms of like be down of the year or slightly more professionally titled, the performance of the year, I think you have to give it to Terence Crawford versus Errol Spence. You know, I mean, I've analyzed the fight so many times, previous videos, but it was just the most one-sided fight at that kind of level that I can ever remember seeing. To be honest with you, it like you just couldn't believe how one-sided it was. It just seemed like Crawford was two or three levels above Spence. Now, regardless of whatever I might think about PEDs or Spence being um done at the weight and Crawford's career in general, like you all of that you have to put it to the side, and if you're just analyzing what you're seeing with your eyes, it was the most one-sided performance at the elite level, not just this year, but possibly in the last 10 years that I can remember, right? And especially when you're talking about 2 pound for pounders, you're talking about two of the top 5 pound for pound getting in there. And so in that context, like tip your hat to Terence Crawford, performance of the year for me, without a shadow of a doubt. Women's fight of the year goes to Chantelle Cameron. I'll be honest with you, I don't, as people know, I don't follow the women's game that much. I don't think the strength and depth is and the quality is there. But Chantelle Cameron, beat Katie Taylor, became, the champ. At two weight classes, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. Um, and or maybe Katie Taylor was attempting to be the champ, but yeah. Anyway, Chantal Cameron, undisputed, beat Katie Taylor. Very close, competitive in the rematch. Could have gone either way as well, and could have got a little bit unlucky with the knockdown that wasn't given. So yeah, I'm not an expert, but from what I know, shout out to Chantal Cameron. Now, moving on to fight of the year. All right, listen, stick with me now. This is like my Ricky Gervais moment, right? I need to keep you guys excited and warmed up. Listen, we've got four more to go. These are the big dogs now. We've got Fight of the Year, KO of the Year, Promoter of the Year, and finally Fighter of the Year, right? So And by the way, get in the comments with any of this stuff that you disagree with, right? Any of these categories you feel like I missed one, do you know what I mean, or picked the wrong one. Yeah, get in the comments. So, fight of the year this year goes to contestants Haney versus Lomachenko, which was a tremendous fight, back and forth chess match, a lot more competitive than I think people were talking about. People talking about Lomachenko, like beat the dog shit out of him. That didn't happen. That didn't happen. You either didn't watch the fight or you're chasing the dragon, bro. Do you know what I mean? Aluminum foil, like brown stuff straight out of Afghanistan, lighter. Do you know what I mean? Listen, I don't know how it works or anything like that, but you are chasing the dragon, bro. Um, Wood versus Warrington. I called this one. I told you guys it would be an absolute war, and it was exactly that. Warrington all over him in the early rounds. Wood just looking like a punching bag, but as he does, just never say die attitude, comes back, finds the punch, beats him up, land some heavy, heavy combinations on him. Warrington, very unlucky, I think, to not be given a minute in the corner. The ref waves it off with like a second to go in the round, whilst Warrington standing in his corner. Um, but yeah, the overall excitement of it. Some of these like British or like domestic, well, these British world title clashes. There's just so much pride and needle in it, and yeah, you could just feel the atmosphere coming through. Gutted I didn't go to that fight, to be honest with you. Um, and also shout out to Rakimov versus Joe Cordina. You know, like very good fight from a technical point of view. Like two clashing styles as well. Rakimov trying to get it off with the pressure, Cordina trying to box. Um, like real exciting fight, back and forth, knockdowns. The fight had everything. But for me, the winner, hands down, has to go to Fury versus Ngannou. Like this was one fight. Not only was the whole production so exciting, a little bit long, but the whole production was just so exciting out of this world, and you had all the legends everywhere. Shout out to the Saudis, they did such a tremendous job, right? But when the main event happened, this is the only fight all year that I've been literally jumping up and down on my feet, like living every punch, just not knowing what's going on. Not knowing what's going on. You watch it, you don't know what am I watching here? Is this a movie? Is this real? Is somebody who's having his first professional fight banging up the heavyweight champion of the world? I'm like, am I actually watching this? It really was just pulsating viewing. You just like a lot of it, maybe just because of the unique scenario that you had, a debutant fighting the champ, but it really was just compulsive viewing. And so fight of the year for me, well deserved, goes to Ngannou Fury Ngannou. Now in KO of the year, right? Um, Shout outs to Lee Wood versus Maurizio Lara. Lara just cleaned him all the way out with the left hook, man. One of the cleanest left hooks you'd ever see. Wood gets up. Ben Davison wants no part of it. Like, Lara can just punch, man. And he wasn't really in the fight, to be honest with you, up until that point. So the fact that it was an eraser like that, you have to give him credit. Um, Mendoza versus Fentura. Fentura, for those of you who don't know, Fentura is like the 6'6", like lightweight or whatever he is. Yeah, just so skinny, so lanky. And Mendoza just like catches him with a left hook, and it's a brutal thing to see sometimes, like when you're picking KO of the year, you're looking for that thriller chiller one that you kind of like looking at the side of your eye. You don't really want to look, but you have to look, right? And Mendoza catches him with a left hook. You got this skinny 6'6" guy there just defenseless. It's a bit like, when you've got like in Mortal Kombat, who's like, finish him. Like, do you know what I mean? Ventura was just there wobbling, ready to be finished, and Mendoza obliged, you know what I mean, with the right hand. Nasty. Tank versus Garcia, I think there's just something about like for people that have like boxed a bit and done a bit of sparring as well, like there's just what that phantom body shot is. You know what I mean? It might look like Garcia quit, in the moment. But if you think back to the Garcia versus Tank fight, Tank catches him with this nasty left hook to the liver. Yeah. And Garcia keeps on fighting, and next thing you know, he just goes down and you're thinking what has happened? Has he quit? You know what I mean? But you watch the replay, that body shot, like the sadist in me wants to know what it was like to be in Garcia's body at that moment. Because you know what I mean, I've had my ribs cracked with a body shot, and it's nothing nice, man. It's nothing nice at all. There's literally nothing you can do in that moment. And yeah, so I'm gonna give that one to Tank, even though it might not have had, the horror appeal of some of the others. But KO of the year for me, above all these worthy contestants, maybe this one's a bit controversial. I think a lot of the other ones were pretty straightforward. Goes to Anthony Joshua versus Robert Helenius. And the reason I say that is because Anthony Joshua is coming off two losses. He looked not very good against Jermaine Franklin. Some people saying even that win was debatable. He's looking not very good against Robert Helenius now. It's a short notice opponent. And and in a way, Joshua was kind of getting bashed up in there. You look at his face afterwards, he's streaming from the nose and whatnot. He's just not looking very good. And you're really wondering, like, does Joshua need to retire? And then he pulls out just the one punch, right hand, and it's the shoulder punch. You can just see, like, as soon as it connects with Helenius, you can just see like that shot going down his arm into his shoulder, yeah. And like you're just sitting there imagining how good that must have felt in his shoulder. Do you know what I mean? As it just went straight through one punch, right hand, bingo shot. Helenius went down like bad, bad. And the relief on his face, do you know what I mean? And the relief in the crowd, frankly, the relief in, you know what I mean, Eddie Joshua, in Eddie Hearn's underpants was just unbelievable, right? So, yeah, I think Anthony Joshua, at a time where it was all just looking like it was going down the pan, pulled out that one punch knockout, and I give that my KO of the year. Um, but yeah, if anyone disagrees with that, I wouldn't argue with you. Promoter of the year now. So shout out to the Matchroom. They had a decent back end of the year. Do you know what I mean? Pause. But yeah, they got off to a slow start at the beginning, but they kind of pulled it back, pause, to make it a respectable year. Shout out to, you know, all the other participants. I mean, the top ranked, frankly, didn't do a lot this year. Golden Boy didn't do a tremendous amount this year. Golden Boy, I think Oscar De La Hoya is probably deserves a shout for Donkey of the Year with everything that's been going on with Ryan Garcia. But yeah, Queensbury did bits, shout out to Uncle Frank. Uncle Frank is this has been a massive comeback year for someone that got accused of being a small hall promoter. With what he did with Fury and Ngannou, with what he did with Day of Reckoning, I feel like it's really, really close between Queensbury and PBC. But at the same time, as I think I'm kind of like pulling forward a lot of the credit that I want to give to Queensbury for this Saudi relationship, which is actually going to be realized next year, with Fury Usyk and the Undisputed fight and the rematch they can do and whatever else, you know. So I feel like let me give them that credit when it's actually realized next year. And for this year, let me give it to Al Heyman and PBC. Do you know what I mean? They came back in a big, big way this year. Last year it was very much about like top rank, and sort of with Queensbury with the Canelo fights, but PBC signing Canelo, delivering Tank versus Ryan Garcia, in a massive, massive show, delivering Crawford versus Spence, which was a massive, massive fight, and then getting Canelo out against Charlo would have been nice to have got him out twice this year, but it's the way it is sometimes. David Benavidez as well in some big fights. Real breakthrough year, I think, for David Benavidez as well. I think PBC deserved it because the real big fights that we were excited about, they turned out to be quite one-sided, but we really didn't know who was going to win, if we're honest. I think that really goes to PBC. delivering fights we were starting to contemplate whether we would ever see as well. So and obviously with Showtime going out, but securing the bag with Amazon as well, massive brand, international distribution possibilities there. Al Heyman PBC, I think deserved winner, but look out for Uncle Frank next year. Do you know what I mean? He's not playing. Um, and finally, if you're still watching, shout out to you and shout out to your dealer. You know what I'm saying? But because I really didn't prep this, so a lot of this is just going off the dome here. But yeah, fighter of the year, the most important category. Um, I think you have to shout out to Tank, but at the end of the day, it's only the one fight. You have to give a big shout out to Devin Haney as well. Um, I felt like I felt like he maybe lost against Lomachenko, but it was a very competitive fight. Um, and uh, and even if it was close, that it was still a hell of a performance to, you know what I mean, to be close against a generational talent like Lomachenko. Absolutely washed, Regis Prograis stepping up to 140. Big year for him. You have to say a big shout out to Crawford as well. But again, it was one fight. I gave him the performance of the year for that one fight, but I think, I can't give that fighter of the year. And so feel, very well deserved. And you have to consider a number of things. You have to consider like what is the level that they're fighting at, what are the significance of these fights, how frequently have they fought, you know, and I think all in all, you have to give fighter of the year, in my opinion, to the monster Naoya Inoue, right? Japan's finest, massive unification clash against Stephen Fulton. Um, you know, absolutely destroyed a 21-0 legit world champion, one of the best fighters in the world. Um, you know, no doubt, cementing himself as the best super bantam in the world. And then to go for the undisputed fight against Marlon Tapales. Um, and again, just the guy seems untouchable, man. He's got everything. Like you name a boxing attribute, and Noah's got it, right? And he's just an absolute phenomenon. Can't wait to see him step up to featherweight, get in there with some of these bigger dudes because no one can touch him at the weight class he's at. It'd be great, at the age of 30 as well to see him in some of the bigger markets, see him in the States, see him maybe come to the UK. Who knows, maybe see him do something in Saudi. And yeah, let's get some of these fights on. Maybe can we get I know Lee Wood's a bit tight at the weight, but can we see him fight Lee Wood, at featherweight? Um, and yeah, it'd just be incredible, I think, to see him in person. And it's a shame, he doesn't speak English and whatnot. Uh, but I think credit where credit's due. Um, to have fought a unification in an undisputed fight, knocked them both clean out, right? And never looked in trouble at all. Fighter of the year. Now, yeah, in a way, shout out to the monster. Shout out to my Japanese people as well, man. Such an incredible culture. Do you know what I mean? Just don't piss them off. Because when it comes to that passive aggression, do you know what I mean? History tells you they might not be so friendly. But anyway, keeping it boxing. I hope everyone's had an incredible year. I hope everyone is prepped and ready, or at least preparing and readying for 2024 to achieve your potential. And yeah, man, fingers crossed for another great year for boxing. I feel like boxing's absolutely delivered this year. If we look back at all the fights that we wanted to see, we got them all, and we got them a lot of them early as well. The first half of the year really was like one of the best first halves I think I can ever remember. In terms of what we got. Um, you know, still some big fights that we didn't get, but I'm gonna get into that in another video. Just looking forward to the top fights for 24. So look out for that. Peace and love. first year MD Sports Talk, and appreciate all the support. And yeah, man, peace and love.